Hello, I'm Eileen McHugh with the BBC News. There's been a mixed reaction to a landmark deal reached by the G7 group of advanced economies to make multinational companies pay more tax in the countries where they do business. The finance ministers agreed to a global minimum corporate tax rate of 15%. Here's Andrew Walker.
It has taken years of negotiations for the G7 to get to this point. The US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen seems to think it was worth it. The plans would end what she called a race to the bottom on corporate tax. But a spokesman for the aid group Oxfam said the proposed 15% minimum was so low that companies could just step over it. The Tax Justice Network said the G7 had finally decided to move the international tax system into the 21st century, but accused them of proposing plans that would mainly benefit themselves, rather than the lower income countries that lose a bigger share of revenue to corporate tax abuse.
The US Justice Department says it's ending the practice of secretly obtaining reporters' records during leak investigations. Democratic and Republican administrations alike have used court orders in an effort to identify sources who have revealed classified information. Here's our North America correspondent, David Willis.
In the past few weeks, it's emerged that Justice Department officials secretly obtained phone and email records from journalists at several news organizations during the Trump administration, among them The Washington Post and CNN, and continued doing so in the early days of the Biden administration. Now, the Justice Department has confirmed that it is bringing an end to a practice that has endured under multiple presidential administrations. A statement issued by the Justice Department also appeared to rule out forcing journalists to reveal the identity of their sources in court.
The Secretary-General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has expressed outrage at the killing of many civilians in Burkina Faso. Officials there say more than 132 people died when jihadist militants struck the northeastern village of Solhan early on Saturday. Western diplomats in Nigeria have expressed disappointment at the government's decision to suspend Twitter, calling free expression a pillar of democracy there and around the world. The Nigerian government has defended its decision, saying the social media platform had been used to spread misinformation that had violent consequences. Mayeni Jones reports.
It seems the presidency is rowing back on the strong language it's used against Twitter so far. In its latest statement, it starts by saying that Twitter's suspension is temporary, suggesting that the social media platform may well be allowed to operate again in the future. The statement also stressed that Twitter had responsibilities and shouldn't be allowed to facilitate the spread of hate speech. The United States Embassy in Nigeria also issued a statement saying the ban sent a poor message to Nigeria's citizens, investors as well as businesses.
BBC News. The head of Israel's domestic intelligence service has warned of a dangerous increase in hate speech and incitement on social media that could lead to political violence. In a rare public statement, the head of Shin Bet, Nadav Argaman, urged politicians and religious leaders to tone down the rhetoric. A suspected missile strike has killed at least 12 people near a petrol station in the Yemeni city of Marib, as dozens of cars were waiting to fill up. Reports say at least one child was killed, and a medical source said dozens of other people were taken to hospital, some with severe burns. The Marib authorities blamed the incident on a missile attack by Houthi rebels. Thousands of people have been marching through Budapest to protest against controversial plans to open a multi-million-dollar Chinese university campus in the Hungarian capital. This report from Risto Pulka.
For the right-wing government of Viktor Orban, the Fudan University's campus in Budapest is a flagship project. They call it a world-class institution that will allow Hungarian students to learn from the best, but not everybody agrees. Critics say it will cost more than the country's entire higher education budget and give China's authoritarian rulers more influence over Hungary, a country that is already known to have stopped the EU from criticising Beijing on more than one occasion. But today's protesters have a supporter in the mayor of Budapest who has named streets around the campus after the victims of China's human rights violations.
The opposition PRI party in Mexico says one of its top officials has been kidnapped in Sinaloa state a day before midterm elections. The party called for a swift investigation into the abduction of Alberto Salas and urged the government to guarantee a free and fair vote. The kidnapping follows the murder of a candidate for mayor in Veracruz state, Reni Tovar, earlier this week. Around 90 politicians have been killed since September. BBC News.